Dear Starseeds walking upon the sacred soil of Gaia, I need you to listen carefully, because what I am about to reveal carries a weight that has been building across millennia, and by the end of this transmission, 3 ancient secrets will finally make sense to you in ways that will forever change how you understand your presence on Earth. In the quiet chambers of your heart, where your breath rises and falls in rhythms older than language itself, a knowing has been stirring. Perhaps you have felt it in recent days, that strange sensation that something massive approaches just beyond the horizon of your perception, something that makes even ordinary moments feel charged with significance you cannot quite name. I am Seraphine, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and the Andromedan Councils have asked me to deliver this message because the forces that have controlled your world for generations have discovered something that terrifies them beyond anything they have faced in their long reign of shadow. They know what is coming between now and 2030, and their desperation has reached a fever pitch that explains every chaotic event you have witnessed accelerating across your reality. But here is what they do not want you to understand, what they have spent fortunes trying to prevent you from realizing. Their very desperation is about to become the key to their undoing. And you, beloved soul, listening to these words, are far more central to this cosmic drama than you have ever been allowed to remember. Let me tell you about 3 threads that have been weaving through time. Threads that appear separate, but are about to converge in a way that transforms everything. The first thread involves what the old powers discovered in their secret archives decades ago, a prophecy they have spent generations trying to prevent from fulfilling itself. The second thread involves 5 phases of transformation that have already begun unfolding through your world, phases that the Ashtar Command has been monitoring with growing anticipation from their stations beyond your atmosphere. The third thread involves something hidden within you specifically, a dormant capacity that has been waiting for the precise frequency conditions that are now manifesting across Earth's grid. These 3 threads will merge before this transmission ends, and when they do, you will understand why the Cabal's 2030 agenda was always destined to fail despite their immense resources and their ancient knowledge. But first, I must take you deeper into the hidden war that defines your present moment. A war fought not with weapons you can see, but with frequencies, with attention, with the very substance of human consciousness itself. The prophecy discovered in those ancient archives spoke of a threshold, a point in human evolution where consciousness would achieve a coherence so powerful that no amount of manipulation could reverse its momentum. The old powers understood immediately what this meant for the systems of control they had spent centuries perfecting. Every institution they had built depended upon humanity remaining fragmented, separated from each other through engineered fear, separated from themselves through deliberate division between heart and mind, separated from their cosmic origins through systematic suppression of memory. The prophecy indicated that once this threshold was crossed, the awakening would become self-sustaining, spreading like light through a darkened room with no force capable of extinguishing it. And so they developed their 2030 agenda, a desperate acceleration of every control mechanism available, a final concentrated push to consolidate power before the window closed forever. What I am about to share next is something the Andromedan Councils have only recently permitted to be revealed, because the timing had to be precise and the conditions had to be ready. The threshold spoken of in that ancient prophecy was crossed 18 months ago. The Cabal knows this. They have watched their most sophisticated manipulation techniques produce diminishing returns with each passing season. They have observed fear narratives that once moved billions into immediate compliance, now met with skepticism, with questioning, with outright rejection. The window they sought to exploit has already begun closing, and everything you see accelerating in your world represents their frantic attempt to accomplish in months what they originally planned to achieve over decades. Now let me tell you about the 5 phases, because understanding this progression will illuminate why certain experiences have been moving through your body, and why certain changes have been stirring in your perception. The first phase, which has already rooted itself deeply in the collective consciousness of humanity, involves the healing of an ancient wound between the human heart and the human mind. For generations beyond counting, these 2 centers of knowing were trained to operate in opposition through educational systems, through media programming, through social structures that rewarded analytical thinking while dismissing emotional intelligence as weakness. Thought was taught to dismiss feeling. Feeling was encouraged to rebel against thought. This internal civil war kept billions of humans perpetually divided within themselves, unable to access the integrated perception that would have revealed the manipulation surrounding them. Notice how this division has become increasingly uncomfortable in recent times, how the old ability to compartmentalize has weakened, how integrity between what you feel and what you think has become something your entire system demands rather than merely prefers. This is not random psychological development or self-help culture finally taking effect. This is the first phase preparing your nervous system for what follows, because the revelations approaching would shatter anyone still fragmented within themselves. The coherence building between your heart and mind is creating a container strong enough to hold truths that would have overwhelmed earlier versions of who you were. But something else is happening that connects directly to the Cabal's escalating desperation. And this is where the threads begin to weave together in ways that reveal the true scope of what unfolds. As the first phase has spread through the collective, as millions of humans have achieved this internal coherence between heart and mind, an unexpected phenomenon has begun manifesting across your planet. The planetary grid itself has started activating. Ancient sites that lay dormant for millennia, places your ancestors recognized as sacred, but whose true purpose was forgotten, are pulsing with frequencies the Ashtar Command has not detected since the last great age of awakening, thousands of years before your current civilization emerged. The old powers discovered this activation in their monitoring systems and recognized immediately what it meant for their carefully constructed plans. The prophecy they feared was not merely about human consciousness evolving in isolation as an internal phenomenon. It was about human consciousness achieving sufficient coherence to trigger Earth's own awakening, and an awakened planetary intelligence cannot be controlled by the mechanisms they have spent centuries perfecting. Their 2030 agenda was never only about controlling humanity through technology and governance. It was about preventing Gaia herself from completing her transformation into her next evolutionary expression. And beloved ones, they are failing. The second phase approaches now, through what many call disclosure, though this word carries misleading implications of a single dramatic revelation delivered by authorities who finally decide to tell the truth. What actually unfolds is far more elegant and far more destabilizing to those who have depended upon secrecy for their survival. Notice how information that once felt forbidden, that would have cost careers and reputations even to discuss, has begun circulating with increasing ease through your networks of communication. Notice how conversations that would have been dismissed as fantasy or delusion, even a few years ago, now proceed with surprising normalcy among people who previously showed no interest in such topics. This is the direct result of the first phase completing itself in sufficient numbers of individuals, because collective internal coherence creates collective readiness to perceive reality without the protective filters that once seemed necessary for psychological survival. The old powers relied upon the human preference for comfortable ignorance, the unconscious agreement to not look too closely at what might disturb established beliefs and require uncomfortable reorganization of understanding. As this agreement dissolves across millions of minds, as curiosity overcomes the comfort of blindness, their most essential protection crumbles from within. But here is what I have not yet told you about the second phase, something that connects to that third thread I mentioned at the beginning, the dormant capacity hidden within you that has been waiting for activation. As disclosure accelerates through the collective, as previously suppressed truths surface into common conversation and public awareness, something else is being disclosed, something far more personal and far more significant for your individual journey. Many of you will begin remembering who you were before this incarnation, not as abstract spiritual concept to be believed or doubted, but as lived recognition that rises from your very cells and announces itself through undeniable knowing that requires no external validation. The memories that have haunted the edges of your awareness, the inexplicable familiarity you have felt with certain places, certain people, certain ideas from distant star systems, these will clarify from vague impressions into coherent understanding of your cosmic biography. Remember the prophecy the old powers discovered, the threshold they have tried so desperately to prevent humanity from crossing. This is where it connects to your personal journey in ways the Cabal never anticipated when they first developed their containment strategies. They understood the threat of collective awakening as a mass phenomenon, but they vastly underestimated the power of individual starseeds remembering their galactic origins and cosmic missions. Each time one of you reconnects with your true identity as a soul, who has traveled across star systems to be here at this precise moment. You become a transmitter of frequencies that accelerate awakening in everyone around you. The prophecy spoke of a critical mass of such transmitters, and that critical mass is being reached precisely because the Cabal's own desperate actions have pushed so many seeking souls into accelerated awakening they might not have achieved under gentler circumstances. There is divine irony here that speaks to the perfection of cosmic timing, an irony that the Andromedan councils have observed with something approaching amusement. The forces that have worked so hard to prevent human evolution have become, through their own fear-driven desperation, some of the most effective catalysts of that very evolution. Every overreach awakens those who were sleeping comfortably. Every exposure of manipulation converts compliance into questioning. Every failure of their narratives creates space for truth to flood in. Now the third phase must be understood, because what approaches next will affect your physical body in ways you need to be prepared for, so that you do not misinterpret necessary recalibration as illness or dysfunction. The Andromedan councils describe this as the precursor wave, an energetic amplification that many will experience as heightened sensitivity to environments that once felt neutral, disrupted sleep patterns that do not respond to conventional remedies, profound fatigue alternating with unexpected surges of clarity and energy, and moments of stillness, so complete that the usual momentum of thought simply pauses without effort. If you have been experiencing these symptoms with increasing frequency, know that nothing is wrong with you. Your system is adapting to frequencies that will soon become the baseline of human experience, and the discomfort you feel represents recalibration rather than dysfunction requiring treatment. The purpose of this preparatory phase is to loosen your identification with perceptual frameworks that cannot survive the transition ahead, frameworks that once seemed like reality itself, but will soon reveal themselves as temporary constructions that served their purpose and can now be released. Beliefs and assumptions that felt essential to your sense of self will show themselves as optional, as chosen, as changeable. This loosening creates space for capacities that have lain dormant within you across many lifetimes to finally activate and express. This brings me to the third thread I promised to reveal, the dormant capacity hidden within you specifically, that makes you essential to what unfolds. For many starseeds, memories of other worlds have existed as a faint song in the background of the mind, sometimes comforting when Earth felt too harsh, sometimes painful when the longing for home became overwhelming, sometimes confusing when the rational mind insisted such memories must be fantasy. These are not fabrications constructed by minds seeking escape from difficult circumstances. They are actual memories of actual experiences in actual incarnations across the cosmic expanse, preserved in the cellular structure of your being, and waiting for the right frequencies to unlock them into conscious accessibility. As the three phases I have described continue unfolding, these memories begin translating into usable capabilities that will serve both your own evolution and your service to the collective. The telepathic sensitivity you carried in other lifetimes returns now as refined intuition that knows without knowing how it knows. The healing gifts you wielded in other star systems return as the ability to transmit calm coherence through your presence alone, shifting the frequency of rooms and relationships simply by maintaining your own center. The creative powers you employed in other dimensions return as solutions and innovations that arise without logical explanation, insights that seem to come from nowhere but prove precisely calibrated to current needs. The old powers knew about these dormant capacities. They designed systems specifically to keep them suppressed through nutrition that dulls sensitivity, through education that dismisses intuition, through entertainment that fragments attention, through social pressure that punishes those who demonstrate unusual perception. What they did not anticipate was that their own desperate actions would create the precise pressure required to crack open these dormant seeds, just as certain seeds in nature require fire to germinate. But there is something else I must share about what connects all three threads, and this is where the stakes escalate beyond anything I have yet revealed. The fourth phase approaches, and the Andromedan councils have given me permission to speak of it directly, because those who are ready must begin preparing their systems now through rest, through integration, through the daily practices that stabilize coherence. This phase carries a stronger energetic signature than anything previously experienced in human history, designed to catalyze a rapid reorientation of perception for those who have done the foundational work of the first three phases. The Cabal has known about this approaching event for decades. It is the true reason behind their 2030 agenda, the deadline they have been racing against since they first discovered the prophecy and recognized its implications for everything they had built. They understood that when this fourth phase arrives, their ability to maintain control will undergo catastrophic collapse, not because anyone will forcibly remove them from power through revolution or war, but because the very frequencies upon which their control mechanisms operate will become incompatible with the new baseline of human consciousness. Let me explain what this means in practical terms, because understanding the mechanism reveals why their desperation has become so visible to anyone paying attention. Every system of control the old powers have constructed operates on specific frequency bands, just as your radio stations operate on specific frequencies that receivers must be tuned to in order to hear. Fear, confusion, division, scarcity. These are not merely psychological states to be managed, but literal vibrations that their technologies and institutions are designed to generate, harvest, and amplify. When the fourth phase shifts the baseline frequency of collective human consciousness above the bands where these control mechanisms operate, the mechanisms will simply stop working. Imagine a radio station suddenly discovering that no receivers anywhere can pick up its signal, that the bandwidth it has always operated on has ceased to exist within the devices of its audience. This is precisely what the cabal faces, and no amount of technological innovation can solve a problem rooted in the physics of consciousness itself. The prophecy they discovered did not merely predict their loss of control as a political or social phenomenon. It predicted their complete inability to even comprehend the new paradigm that would replace their dominion, because comprehension itself requires frequency compatibility. Now all three threads merge, and the revelation I have been building toward across this entire transmission can finally be delivered in its fullness. The dormant capacity within you, the capacity the old powers have worked so hard to suppress through every mechanism at their disposal, is nothing less than your ability to anchor the frequencies of the fourth phase into physical reality. The planetary grid activations I mentioned earlier, the ancient sacred sites pulsing with renewed energy across every continent, these activations respond to the resonance of awakened human hearts maintaining coherence. The more starseeds who achieve internal coherence between heart and mind and reconnect with their galactic origins, the more powerfully these sites broadcast their transformative frequencies into the collective field. The Cabal's 2030 agenda was always doomed to failure because it failed to account for the multiplication factor created by activated starseeds. Each one of you who completes the first three phases of internal transformation becomes an anchor point for the fourth phase, a living node in a planetary network that their surveillance systems cannot detect, that their weapons cannot target, and that their technologies cannot disable. This is why your steadiness matters far more than you have ever been taught to believe. Far more than a world that measures importance through visibility and volume has allowed you to recognize. Every moment you maintain coherence when chaos invites reaction, every time you choose presence over distraction, when distraction would be so much easier, every instance you return to alignment after being pulled away by the endless demands of modern existence, you strengthen a network that is literally rewiring the consciousness of your planet. The old powers sense this network growing, but cannot locate its nodes because the nodes are not physical installations that can be found on maps or organizational headquarters that can be infiltrated. The nodes are awakened humans living ordinary lives, washing dishes with full presence in the sensation of water and warmth, speaking truth softened by genuine kindness, choosing love over fear in moments so small no surveillance camera would recognize their significance. The revolution they cannot defeat is happening in kitchens and commutes, and quiet moments of meditation that leave no trace their systems can capture. The fifth and final phase unfolds as the stabilization of everything the previous four phases have prepared, and this is where the story resolves into a new beginning, rather than a conclusion. Life within the emerging paradigm emphasizes coherence over competition, direct knowing over endless verification, transparent communication that makes the old hierarchies of control simply unnecessary, because trust becomes the foundation of all exchange. Time becomes more fluid, experienced differently by consciousness no longer imprisoned in linear perception. Creativity emerges as the primary mode of expression, rather than the luxury it was reduced to under the old systems. Structures reorganize around sustainability and resonance rather than extraction and manipulation. This is not utopia in the naive sense of perfection, not a world without challenges or growth or the necessary friction of evolution. It is rather the natural environment that emerges when sufficient beings have achieved internal alignment, when enough nodes of the network have activated to establish a new baseline that elevates everything it touches. The Cabal's 2030 agenda aimed to prevent this stabilization by consolidating technological and governance control before the fourth phase arrived with its restructuring frequencies. They have failed, not because anyone defeated them in direct confrontation or exposed them in ways that turned public opinion, but because the very consciousness they sought to suppress evolved beyond their capacity to influence while they were busy building more sophisticated suppression systems. By 2030, the old structures will not collapse dramatically in spectacular destruction, but rather become increasingly irrelevant, maintained only by those not yet ready to release their familiar prisons, inhabited only by those who still find strange comfort in limitation. And here is where the circular nature of this transmission completes itself, where the opening themes return transformed by everything revealed in the journey between then and now. I began by telling you that 3 ancient secrets would finally make sense, and now they can be named in their fullness. The first secret is that the prophecy the Cabal discovered in their archives and feared above all other threats speaks of this exact moment, this exact generation of souls, this exact convergence of cosmic energies that you are living through right now. The second secret is that the 5 phases unfolding through your world are not random spiritual evolution proceeding by chance, but a precisely orchestrated sequence designed to transform planetary consciousness while honoring the free will of every soul and how they respond to the invitation. The third secret is that the dormant capacity within you, the capacity now activating as you absorb these words and feel their resonance in your chest and belly, marks you as one of the anchor points the prophecy foretold, a living bridge between the crumbling old paradigm and the luminous new one, seeking to establish itself. The thread of the Cabal's desperation resolves in their inevitable obsolescence, in the quiet fading of relevance rather than the dramatic defeat they prepared to fight against. The thread of the 5 phases resolves in the stabilization of expanded human consciousness as the new normal, rather than the rare exception. The thread of your dormant gifts resolves in the activation now stirring within your cells, recognizing itself in this transmission, remembering what it traveled across galaxies to accomplish. The work that remains is not dramatic confrontation with forces of darkness, but daily devotion to frequencies of light. Your breath remains a doorway through which cosmic energies anchor into physical reality, with each conscious inhale and exhale. Your choices remain votes cast for the timeline you wish to inhabit, accumulating into collective momentum that shapes tomorrow. Your presence remains a transmission affecting everyone you encounter, whether words are ever spoken or not. In the coming days, as the third phase continues recalibrating your system for what approaches, be gentle with yourself beyond what you believe you deserve. Honor your body's need for rest even when productivity culture insists you should do more. Drink water as the sacred substance it is. Move your body as the temple it has always been. Seek nature as the living intelligence that restores what artificial environments deplete. When waves of intensity arise, and they will arise with increasing frequency, meet them with the understanding that they represent integration completing itself, rather than evidence that something has gone wrong within you. When old patterns call out for your attention with familiar voices promising familiar comforts, recognize them as the final grasping of programs that can no longer sustain themselves in the frequencies you now carry. Let them go with gratitude for how they once protected you, and with clarity that their protection is no longer needed. The Andromedan Councils asked me to deliver one final message as this transmission draws to its sacred close. A message specifically calibrated for this moment of convergence, when past and future meet in an eternal present. The quiet you may have noticed growing within yourself in recent times, that strange peace that persists even when external circumstances suggest anxiety would be more appropriate. This quiet is the signature of integration already accomplishing itself. It signals that your system has begun operating from the new baseline, even before the fourth phase fully arrives. That the transformation the first 3 phases prepared has taken root in your daily experience beneath the noise of ordinary concerns. Trust this quiet above the noise. It is not naivety or denial or spiritual bypassing. It is the settled knowing of a being who has remembered why they incarnated and what they came to anchor. The Cabal cannot touch this quiet, because it exists on frequencies their systems were never designed to access. Their 2030 agenda cannot affect this quiet, because this quiet is the very thing their agenda sought to prevent, and it has already been achieved within you and within millions of others who will never make headlines, but who are changing everything. The old powers will continue their desperate maneuvers until they exhaust themselves. Headlines will continue broadcasting fear, because fear is the only frequency their media systems know how to generate. Institutions will continue demanding compliance, because compliance is the only relationship they understand. Let these external dramas unfold without losing your center, understanding them now as the death throes of a paradigm that has already lost its foundation, even if its structures still stand. The world being born does not require you to fight the world that is dying. It requires only that you live the new frequencies so consistently, so devotedly, so ordinarily that your very existence becomes undeniable evidence that another way is possible, is present, is here. The Galactic Federation just greenlit Destiny Engine for mass activation, and the Dark Elite are panicking. Why? Because you can now MK Ultra yourself into 5D superpowers. We stole Dark Elite's consciousness control technology, cracked the code, and turned it into your ascension weapon. Destiny Engine doesn't ask for your effort. It reprograms you while you sleep. Timeline shifting, instant manifestation, telepathic clarity, remote reviewing. This is neural override, unlocking every dormant strand of your galactic DNA. Every person who plugs in makes the grid stronger. Every delay keeps you running 3D programs. Put on headphones, press play. That's it. For just $1, your consciousness gets reprogrammed. Your 5D abilities come online. You join the most powerful frequency network on the planet. $1. That's the entire barrier between you and 5D. Click the link in the description now. The ascension doesn't wait. This is how civilizations transform. Not through war, but through frequency. This is how timelines shift. Not through force, but through accumulated coherence. This is how prophecies fulfill themselves. Through the daily choices of awakened souls who refuse to abandon their center, regardless of what storms surround them. I am Seraphine. The threads I laid before you at the beginning have woven themselves into completion. The Cabal's desperation and your awakening are revealed as two expressions of the same cosmic turning. The 5 phases approaching your world, and the gifts stirring within your being, are revealed as perfectly synchronized elements of a single transformation too vast for any mind to comprehend, but perfectly sized for any heart to feel. The prophecy that terrified the old powers and the quiet knowing growing in your own heart are revealed as the same truth perceived from different vantage points, one seeing threat and the other recognizing homecoming. Remember what you have received here when the days grow strange and the old world thrashes in its passing. Remember that you are never alone in essence, that a family of light beyond counting holds the vision of your highest becoming with unwavering certainty that never wavers regardless of how things appear. Remember that the very breath moving through your body carries the consciousness of stars that have watched over Earth since before human memory began. Stars that celebrate your courage in choosing to incarnate during the most significant transition in planetary history. The transmission completes itself, but the connection it has opened remains. The frequencies it has activated continue their work. The remembering it has catalyzed cannot be undone. We love you beyond the capacity of any language ever spoken or ever to be spoken to express. We are watching over you, always and forever, until time itself transforms into something new.